Bet365, we are kicking off the Power Hour Week 18, the only NFL pregame show with all of the stuff you care about, none of the fluff you don't. I am Chad Millman. Over the next 30 minutes, my Action Network buddies, Sean Koerner, Simon Hunter, Chris Raybon, are going to convince me what props, what sides, what totals I should be playing today. Plus, we got Evan Abrams on the Action Network news desk with all the stats, data, trends to make us smarter than all of our friends. At the bottom half of the hour, don't forget Gilles Gallant, Brian Matthews, Charlie Disturco will take us through the touchdown show, previewing the best touchdown props on the board today. And by the way, next weekend, wild card weekend, we're doing it all live. Wild card action weekend, Saturday, Shepherd and the Knucklehead, doors open 4 p.m. Watch party with this crew on this show right now. Everyone's going to be there. Free entry, free drinks, free sweat in the bets. And then Sunday, we're running it back. We're doing a live show, me and Simon Hunter, the Favorites podcast. Again, doors open 4 p.m., free entry, free drinks. Then we're doing the show, hanging out, watching all the games. RSVP in the link in the description for this show. Also, don't forget, if you're watching us right now, like this video, subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page. Also, everything we're talking about, all the picks, all the data, all the trends, all the research, available for free in the award-winning Action Network app. Also, don't forget to sync your Bet365 bets with the Action app. It's the coolest, slickest way to track your picks with ease and speed. Click the My Accounts button in the Action tab in the Action app. All right, let's get to it. 18 weeks of stuff like this. Sean Koerner, kick us off with your favorite prop.
So I'm going with Aaron Jones under 16 and a half rush attempts. He's been on fire lately. He's cleared this in back-to-back games. He has 20 plus carries and 120 plus yards in back-to-back games. But I do expect him to cool off just a bit here in terms of rush attempts. The Bears are not a team you want to run on too much. We've talked about that at length this season. They ranked fourth in run defense DVOA. They are much more of a pass funnel defense, and that could be the case even more today. Their top cornerback, Jalen Johnson, is doubtful due to his shoulder injury. He's had a Pro Bowl caliber season, so his absence just makes it more likely for the Packers to lean on the pass here in Jordan Love's arm. The Bears, they've only allowed the third fewest rush attempts per game. That has to do with their stout run defense, but also the fact that they rank second in terms of time of possession. They're a very run-heavy team that plays at the third slowest pace, so they're able to bleed a lot of clock that way. And they've only allowed a running back to clear this just twice all season. However, they are vulnerable to running backs in the passing game. They've allowed the second most receptions to running back. So I think that's kind of how they kickstart the running game here, dumping it off to Aaron Jones as opposed to design rush attempts. Plus, this fits in line with, I know you like the Bears. I think you got them plus 3.5. I like them plus 3. But I think this is a game Chicago should be able to keep close, maybe even have the lead at times here, which could help prevent the Packers from being, too run heavy here. So I'm projecting this closer to 15.5 with about a 60% chance he stays under 16.5 rush attempts.
So there's so many reasons I like this. Number one, the Bears are going to win this game. So it plays to the game script. Two, Koerner, continuing your red hot streak. I know yesterday you had Najee Harris over 15.5 rushing attempts. He basically had that. He had half of that in the first quarter and nailed it by the middle of the third quarter. So well done on that. I like everything.
Yeah, and I had Jonathan Taylor under 2.5 receptions, so I'm glad they pulled him on that last play
That's
and threw
right.
that to Goodson. So got lucky on that one.
I'm not sure Gardner Minshew and Goodson are glad that they pulled Jonathan Taylor. Simon Hunter, what do you got for your prop?
Going with Josh Allen, anytime touchdown, Chad. And the price has actually come down a little bit. You can get this now at -125, -130 at a couple of books. I love the value on Josh Allen. He's basically scored a rushing touchdown in every game. And I know everyone gets to talking about Jalen Hurts and the tush push and everything like that, but the Bills have the same exact play pretty much, right? They have a guy who's 6'4", strong, and is great at QB sneaks, and they priced it that way. So looking at this matchup against Miami, we already know they have like a bunch of guys injured on their front, which would make it easier to run against them. Maybe have a little rain later as well. And then you mix in that this is for the Bills record, right? So if he gets this, he ties a name that shall not be spoken for the most touchdowns scored in Bills history. We know the Bills want that, right? You think they want to keep mentioning this guy's name who we can't even say on this show? No, they want to say Josh Allen's our leading touchdown scorer rushing. So, the guys in the locker room are talking about, they joked about it all week. They wouldn't say the guy's name, so I won't say it here because I think it's a hilarious running joke. But yeah, Josh Allen, you can get really good price right now on it. I know it's a later game, so you have to wait all day for it, but I think it's worth it. Bet it now. I think by the time it kicks off, I bet this goes up to -150.
I love that of all the things we've actually said on this show, on our podcast, on all the podcasts that we do, the one name we shall not mention is the name that shall not be mentioned. That is where we're drawing the line, is the former Bills running back who the Bills won't even mention at this point. Chris Raybon, please mention a name.
O.J. Simpson. I mean, let's go with Trey McBride over 5.5 receptions, Chad. Like, this guy has been balling out since he took over for Zach Ertz at tight end for the Cardinals. 7.0 catches in his last 9 games. He's had 6 or more in 7 of his last 9 as well. He's running a route on 91% of the dropbacks over the last 2 games. And Arizona, even though they are at home, they're still an underdog here. And I think people are kind of, expected them to just knock off Seattle, but it'll still be a negative game script for them. And that's where I think you're going to see this prop really come to fruition. So like Trey McBride to go over 6 catches for the 8th time in 10 games.
Yeah, I kind of love all of these. And Trey McBride has definitely become the guy that Kyler Murray is looking for. And it's how that Cardinals team has kept themselves in so many games the past few weeks and then winning, obviously, last weekend in an upset fashion. But I'm going with Aaron Jones under his total carries. I'm riding the hot hand. Koerner has been crazy, crazy hot. This game will be front and center in the Millman household today. I am going to be rooting for the Bears to dominate. I am going to be rooting for Aaron Jones to go under 15.5 total carries. But I will say, I'm just choosing it for the show. I'm still betting Trey McBride, and I'm definitely betting Josh Allen as soon as we get off this show because that price is perfectly right. All right, let's get to the next segment. We're talking about our sides, which sometimes could really be the main course, if you know what I'm saying. Sean Koerner.
I'm going with the Giants today. So give me the Giants plus 4.5. The Eagles have been struggling mightily recently. They're 1-4 over the last 5 games. Their defense has just become a serious issue lately. They just allowed the Cardinals to put up 35 points. Arizona didn't even have to punt at all last week. So the Eagles are going to be without Darius Slay here. So they're going to continue to struggle. And, I liked what I saw from Tyrod Taylor last week. He was excellent in his start. And he's a pretty big upgrade over Tommy DeVito. I know Tommy Cutlets was a great story and all, but Tyrod Taylor is a functioning veteran NFL quarterback. I don't think the market's factoring that in enough here. I boosted the Giants' power rating by about 3 points with Tyrod under center. So they also got back Darren Waller a couple weeks ago. He looks 100% finally. So I think he's going to be a big reason why they're able to move the ball here, attack, an Eagles defense that's really struggled to defend tight ends all year. And on the other side of the ball, the Eagles are going to be without Devonta Smith here, which is a huge blow. And they don't have much to play for here. If the Cowboys beat the Commanders, they can't really improve their seeding. So if they see the Cowboys get up early against the Commanders, which I do expect, we could see them pull some starters like Jalen Hurts here. So this is a game where, especially in the second half, I think the Giants are going to have the edge here. So I love the fact that we're getting the Giants plus 4.5.
Yeah, this has been a really popular pick all week. Simon and I talked about this on the Favorites podcast earlier in the week, one that we liked as well. Simon, what else do we like?
Chad, going to Atlanta +3. I am shocked that Chris didn't take this. I couldn't believe it. I opened up the doc. I was like, this is such a Chris bet. And the fact that he didn't bet it is shocking. But this is the spot, right? Atlanta, what, they just lose by 20 points last week to the Bears. The Saints just won by what, 20 points on the road last week? You can't make it up. It's like the dream scenario fading the Saints team and the rare selling high spot for the Saints and a buy low for Atlanta. But the trends from Evan really set me over the top. Like these trends are insane, Chad. So Dennis Allen coach teams are 4-16, so 20% against the spread, coming off a straight up win in their last game. Okay, so that right there, Dennis Allen, you want to fade him after a win. Now we have Derek Carr, who is 9-26 against the spread when he's favored by 3 points or more. So that's 2-14 in his last 17 games against the spread. Like this guy, Derek Carr, against the spread as a favorite of 3 points or more is terrible. And what do we have here, Chad? We have a 3-point spread on Atlanta, a team that people are basically leaving for dead. Everyone's out on them. Everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid again on the Saints after they had a huge win against the Bucs last week. This just lines up, right? This lines up for either Atlanta win or they lose a close one. So the fact we're still getting 3.5 at a couple books, you have to grab that number with Atlanta. It's just overvalued Saints team and a buy low Atlanta team in the last game of the year. So I know it's Ritter as the quarterback. I really think it's all about the running backs here. Like everyone's healthy right now for Atlanta on that line. So to me, the fact that you could still get the +3, you have to go grab that value right now for Atlanta.
Yeah, look, this game, Simon, at the Favorites, we are an Atlanta Falcons podcast. We have been riding the Falcons for 2 years. This is the game where Arthur Smith goes back to his roots, gets the ball into his running back's hands against a rush defense that isn't very good. His opportunity to win the division, his opportunity to keep his job, his opportunity to go into next season, hopefully getting a better quarterback. I'm surprised Raybon didn't take this too, because Raybon is the one who, on the Favorites podcast, before the season began, pointed out all of the trends that focused on how bad Carr would be this year as a quarterback in a new offense with a new coordinator. This is a smash spot for the Atlanta Falcons. I don't want to tip my hand, but I do like this pick. Also, Raybon, nice work. You were on the Texans yesterday. Chad Millman was also on the Texans yesterday. What will you try to convince me of right now?
Chad, let's go to Minnesota +4 at the Detroit Lions. I love this bounce back spot for the Vikings, coming off a big loss to the Packers with Jaron Hall. Now they're going back to Nick Mullins, and he's averaging 8.8 yards per attempt this year. He's just a guy that's going to chuck and duck it. But remember, 2 weeks ago, they were in that game against Detroit, and Mullins throws 4 picks. If he just throws 3, they probably win that game, much less cover. They outgained the Lions by a yard despite running 26 fewer plays, 7.6 yards per play for the Vikings, just 5.1 for the Lions in that game. And, this is kind of uncharted territory for the Lions. I know they can jump up in seeding if the Cowboys and the Eagles lose, but that's unlikely. So, if anyone gets a little banged up, or maybe it just gets late in the game, you might see them still not go 100% or pull their starters or just come out flat because they know they don't really have too much to play for. So I think you're getting some nice value here with the Vikings, and you have underdogs coming off a loss, usually a really good spot, 59% against the spread over the last 5 seasons. So give me the Vikings +4.
Yeah, look, I love all 3 of these. You can check in the Action Network app. I've bet all 3 of these. I'm a little disappointed. I think I got Minnesota at 3.5, so I didn't get as good of a number. Our good friend Matt Mitchell made a great analogy this week. He said Tyrod Taylor was kind of like the 19 hitting on is kind of like getting 19 as a hand in blackjack. You feel good about it. You think you're going to win. Still a chance you might lose, but it makes you feel comfortable you got a shot. Nick Mullins is the guy who's hitting on 19 in blackjack. You just don't know what you're going to get with Nick Mullins. I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons +3. Been riding them all year. Going to ride them again one more time in week 18. All right, here's something that scares me a little bit, because the most bet teams in week 18, Bears +3, 74% of the bets. Patriots, -2, 73% of the bets against the Jets. This will be the last time we talk about the Patriots all season long. Unless Evan's going to talk about them.
I was just going
to. And the Titans, +4.5, are getting 72% of the bets against the Jags. All these are in the Action Network app. So a couple of very public dogs, but it doesn't scare me. Let me use this opportunity to introduce Evan Abrams. What do you got, brother?
Yeah, I was going to say lots of great games today, but one we're going to talk about now is the one you just mentioned, Jets Patriots. Got to talk about the total. You said Patriots are getting a ton of the action, but also over-under is now 29. So if it closes under 30, it would be the lowest closing NFL total since at least 1980. And the fact that it is 29 in itself is the first over-under to dip below 30 since 1993, when 3 totals dipped below 30 that day due to weather, which is also kind of what's going on here. We've got 50-mile-an-hour winds. We've got snow. I'm in New York currently looking out my window, tons of snow. So Giants game snow, and you've got snow in New England. So I'm bringing this total all the way down. That's the first thing, Chad. Next, got to talk about this eliminated versus contending angle. And Stuckey came up with a great angle here. So since 1990, eliminated teams playing teams that need to win over the final 2 weeks of the regular season, 164-4 against the spread. That's 61%. Now, those teams today, the Panthers, the Titans, the Cardinals, and the Bears, just the 4 teams I know everyone wants to bet on. And next, win totals. So actually entering week 18, we have 7 teams with their win totals in balance. So Eagles and Bills, double-digit win totals, still in balance. Jaguars, Broncos, Bears, and we have the Seahawks and the Cardinals in balance facing each other today, which is fun. And finally, incentives. I know it's everywhere. I'll say this before we start, and I know there's a disclaimer on the screen. Please be careful. But these are 3 fun ones. So Chris Jones, half a sack. If he gets it, $1.25 million. He has 9.5. He needs 10. DeAndre Hopkins. By the way,
but Evan, don't forget, Chris Jones did say this week he doesn't care if he plays. He's got plenty of money.
Correct. But if he does, he'll probably dance on the field like we saw yesterday with Clowney. So we'll see if he gets there. But you're right. He doesn't care. But he might get it, and he might get a good moment. But the one that is everywhere, Chad, is DeAndre Hopkins. People have been kind of talking about it. And Tennessee doesn't really need the game. Eliminated, doesn't matter. Trying to be spoiler. So he needs 7 receptions for $250K. He needs 49 receiving yards for $250K. And he needs two touchdowns for $250K. So maybe he will get there, maybe he won't, but that's one to watch out for.
That Jadeveon Clowney dance yesterday was outstanding and indulgent, and I'm so glad he was able to celebrate in the rain. Convince Me is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and present in Colorado, Iowa, New Jersey, Louisiana, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. All right, Koerner, let's get to our totals.
All right. Yeah, I'm going with the Cowboys Commanders under 46.5, but I am seeing some 47s start to pop up, so I prefer it at that, obviously. But this is the lowest luck total rating of the week at -8.3, which is a strong signal towards the under. And when we've seen a luck total under with, divisional teams playing for the second time in a season, it's gone 20-10. So a 67% hit rate. So another reason to love this one. But, the Commanders left tackle, Charles Leno, suffered a season-ending injury a couple weeks ago, which is, a big loss to this offensive line. But right tackle Andrew Wiley's, possibly going to miss his second straight game here due to his elbow injury. So if Wiley's also ruled out, that's going to be a huge issue. I could just see the Cowboys defense being able to tee off on Sam Howell here. And on the other side, I think the Cowboys offense should be able to move the ball early in the game, but once they do build up a lead. I think they're going to struggle to run the ball. Tony Pollard struggled all season, but left guard Tyler Smith has yet to practice this week. He tore his plantar fasciitis, so there's a chance he might not suit up. So that's going to be a big blow. TJ Bass is the backup, and he's struggled whenever he's been asked to fill in this year. So looking out for that. But either way, I'm rolling with the luck totals here. So give me the under 46.5.
Yeah, luck totals have been a revelation this year, and it feels like every week I'm betting a luck total, and it's my happiest, easiest bet of the week. Simon, will we be lucky with your total?
Going Denver and the Raiders under 37. Talking about great quarterbacks and a great matchup. This ain't it. This is a bad matchup. Two teams that I respect their defenses more right now than their offenses. The Raiders, since Antonio Pierce has taken over, have been a totally different team, right? We talked about it last week. Them and the Bears defenses since, like, what is it, week 10? I've been top 5 defenses, and the Raiders are right there with them. Like, they've just been really well coached down the stretch here. And Denver, they're a team that, I mean, last week people saw it, right? I think they put up 16 points against the Chargers. It's not there, right? Russell Wilson, as much as you want to badmouth him and say anything like that, at least he can score in the red zone, where most of these guys they bring in, it's just really tough to get points up in the red zone. I think both these teams are going to struggle when they get to the red zone. So the fact that it is 37 is such a key number. I love this under, and the fact that both these quarterbacks have struggled this season and previous seasons that they played in the red zone. It's another reason to take it. And then factor into this is the end of the year. No teams are really playing for anything, but both these teams kind of are, right? Both these quarterbacks want to play well. I think they put a lot of pressure on themselves to play well in this game, and which, again, I think is make for mistakes and sloppy play in the red zone. It just all lines up for this being way too high of a total. So the sad part is a couple of years ago, Chad, this was probably 41, but the books have caught up to it now, especially in week 17, week 18. They've really bumped these down. So still like the value here. It's just don't go too crazy on it. It is the final week of the regular season.
Broncos backers desperately hoping Jarrett Stidham can get them to 9 wins to crash over their season win total. Raybon, what do you got?
All right, Chad. So we're going to go with the second lowest luck total, but the highest total on the board. Buffalo, Miami, under 48.5. I think really the key here is, well, a couple of things. The first is Buffalo under Ken Dorsey was super pass heavy. They were averaging just 25 rush attempts, but 36 passes a game. With Joe Brady, they're averaging more rushes than passes. And this is over now 6-game sample, 37 rushes per game, 33.2 dropbacks per game. And then you look at Miami's going to be without Raheem Mostert and Jalen Waddle, 2 of their best offensive players. So you don't know. I mean, they can obviously benefit and keep that 2 seed, but you don't know how hard they're going to go with these injuries already. And then you have just the fact that it's going to be humid down there in Miami. The humidity is nearly 80%. It's a little windy too. We've seen games like that go under at a 62% clip. And primetime games also going under at a 62% clip since the start of last season. So give me this Bills Dolphins under 48.5.
What do we think of the fact this number was hovering around 51, 50.5 and has come down so much? Do we worried we're not getting the best of the number anymore?
Nah, because it was just way too high to begin with. I think, like the books, they really weren't factoring in Bills, I think, running as much as they have, but also just like now we got news that Mostert and Waddle are not going to play, which they're listed as questionable. So I think it's deserving that it's come down.
All right. Well, listen, I'm going with the Cowboys and the Commanders, but there's a strategic reason why. I feel like I might get another opportunity to get a bite at the apple on the Dolphins and the Bills. So give me the under in the Commanders and the Cowboys game. All right. We just mentioned we got the Bills visiting the Dolphins. There are playoff seeding implications, implications, AFC East division title implications. The Bills opened as 3-point favorites, moved down to 2.5-point favorites. They are getting 63% of the bets, 80% of the money. As we just said, the total 48.5. Koerner, what's your pick for tonight?
Raybon just mentioned it, but the under 48.5, second lowest luck total of the week at minus 5.7. Luck unders are 29.18, so 62% on the season. Raheem Mostert and Jalen Waddle are both expected to miss, I think that is a pretty big blow, just considering the Dolphins offense is top heavy. So outside of Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane, they don't really have many other playmakers. So it's going to be easier to slow them down, especially considering just how good the Bills defense has been. They were almost too good last week. It like killed the under because they forced 4 turnovers in the first half and they all set up, in scoring position, including a pick six. So kind of got burned by the Bills defense being so good last week. But this week, I don't expect the Dolphins to turn it over as much as the Patriots. So I think that's going to help slow down the scoring here. So I'm with Raybon. I like the under 48.5.
Simon?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm doing it, Chad. Going with the Bills. It's probably my chalkiest pick of the year, fitting that it's the last game of the year, but not going to let the line movement scare me off. It's like you said, it's moved from -3 to -2.5. I just think the professionals are overrating this Miami team. Like the pros that are coming to Miami, the guys you talked about, they have such huge injuries. Like Mostert, if you want to try to overlook that as not that big of a deal, I think he set their franchise record for rushing touchdowns this season.
Yeah.
Like this guy has been incredible in the red zone. Like he's just one of those guys who he can smell the goal line. He gets there. You can't really say that about the other running backs. Now you mix in the fact that Waddle's banged up. That's such a huge deal. Like we see it time and time again. If you can just shift your defense to one side of the field and not have to worry about the other side of the field, that's a big deal when you're playing against this Miami team. So, Waddle, he's been underrated all year. Like he's such a difference maker to that Miami team. So those are two major injuries, and we already talked about all the injuries that Miami's had to their defense. I don't think the books have caught up to this number. Like if this was 4 or 5 weeks ago, this number, sure, makes sense, right? Public will come in heavy on on the Bills. They're going to hang it high. They'll take it because they know Miami's in a good spot. I don't think Miami's in a good spot here. I think the books are overreacting, not taking into account all the injuries that have happened here. And, the fact that this is a winners take all, like we're talking on a matchup here where the Bills team, they've been in these spots before. Josh Allen's been in this spot before. Tua has not. Last year, people forget Tua did not play in that playoff game. He was not the reason they were in such a close game against the Bills last year in that playoffs game. That was a backup. So Tua hasn't had the experience. We've seen Tua historically struggled against winning teams with winning record. So just looking at this matchup, I'm not going to react to it. I'm going to ride with the public. I'll take the Bills -2.5.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that there's not more professional action on the Bills. I'm with you 100% in this. I like the Bills as a side. Raybon, I feel like you might be repeating yourself, but I think it's worth emphasizing.
Yeah, no, we're going with the under here. This is like the third time on the show, so I'll just say the Bills are averaging 37 rushing attempts per game. What more do you want?
Yeah, I'm going with the under in this. I've liked the under all week in this. Simon and I talked about it on the favorites only because I had seen in the luck rankings that we liked the under in this. I think it could be a really intense, close game, but the way the Bills have been playing with their offense since Joe Brady took over as offensive coordinator, give me the under 48.5 in this game. Reminder, Convince Me is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary. At Bet365, must be 21 or older and present in Colorado, Iowa, New Jersey, Louisiana, Ohio, Virginia, or 18 and older in Kentucky. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, restrictions apply. Don't forget, download the app to get all of our picks. Like and subscribe to the Action Network YouTube page. Stay tuned for the touchdown show, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you, Chad and the whole Kibitsby crew, and welcome to Week 18, the final week of the regular season of the Touchdown Show on the Action Network, presented by Bet365. I'm Gilles Gallant. I'm joined every week by Charlie Disturco and Brian Matthews, a.k.a. the BMAT. Now, Charlie, we talked about this a little bit yesterday when we were talking about the Saturday games. Again, final week of the season. There's a lot of starters out, but some starters, again, are going to have some contract incentives tied into their performances today. How are we navigating this landmine of week 18 of trying to figure out who's playing and who's not.
Yeah, it's extremely difficult trying to read through all the tea leaves here. Some of the games, the odds I think maybe just got put up in the last 24 hours. So trying to sift through all of that, look for the meaningful games similar to like Sunday Night Football. And, you know, if you don't live under a rock, you see on Twitter or X every single contract incentive and touchdown incentive and whatever needs to happen for this week. So obviously everything's going to happen right now. I may have a little contract incentive bet later in the show, but Matt, I want to ask, Sunday Night Football, Bills, Dolphins, the most anticipated game of the week. What are you thinking?
Hey, I like this game. I mean, look, I'm looking at a few things, and I'm also looking at Josh Allen potentially overtaking OJ Simpson's Buffalo Bills single season rushing touchdown record. So there are a lot of things at play this weekend, and you guys are right. Look, find the incentives, and you can find a lot of the plays that are worth looking into at least.
All right. I didn't think week 18 we'd start off with an OJ cameo here, but all right. We're off to a great start. All right. So here's how today's show is going to go. We're each going to have 4 picks. We're going to start off with our favorite best bets of touchdown scores, and then we're just going to kick up the difficulty as we go, and we'll get real spicy at the end with some long shots. And then, of course, we will have the Bet365 anytime touchdown boosted parlay that we will give out at the end of the show. And the touchdown show is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day, they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only or 18 plus in Kentucky and present in Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms and conditions and restrictions apply. All right, gentlemen, let's get started. I'm going to go right to the Saints game. I'm going to take Taysom Hill for a touchdown at plus 250. Now, I'm seeing plus 260 out there as well. So, again, good odds there. But this is all set for the Taysom kitchen sink game. Now, he hasn't scored a touchdown in over the last 3 games, but Alvin Kamara hasn't practiced all week. Now, he is going to be a game time decision. Even if he does play, I can't imagine how effective he's going to be. But for Taysom, 33 red zone touches this year. I think it's important to note that they're playing at home, that he averages 3 red zone carries per home game. That's over 6 games sampled this season. And the Falcons, their defense is starting to regress here. They've allowed 4 rushing touchdowns just over the last 2 games. Chicago ran all over them last week. Yeah. Now, Taysom obviously isn't your prototypical quarterback, but I also think it is worth noting that the Falcons have given up 6 touchdowns to quarterbacks this year, and they're bottom 5 in rushing attempts allowed to quarterbacks and rushing yards. So that sets up well for Taysom even between the 20s, not just at the goal line. But that versatility is why we love Taysom. I mean, he scored a receiving touchdown last week versus the Bucs, so he can get in the end zone a lot of different ways. And B-Matt, I know that you'll feel my pain when I say this. You know how I feel about Saints pass catchers. It's never really a fun ride. Like, even when we win, it's like a sense of relief more so than anything, like a chance of success. So this is my way. I feel like I'm taking Derek Carr out of the equation. And especially, I think with Taysom, seeing odds, as low as around plus 175 for him to score this week. So I like Taysom Hill to score a touchdown this week in a do or die game for the Saints. So that is my best bet for week 18. Charlie, what is your best bet for week 18?
Yeah, heading out to Philly, New York. This is a game that the Eagles need to win because they're in hopes that they could still win the NFC East despite their collapse of late. And I'm targeting a guy that has not produced as far as end zone or touchdowns, rather, and that's A.J. Brown at plus 130. If not now, when is he going to score, guys? 0 touchdowns in his last 5, and this is a great matchup against the New York Giants. You look at how he performed a couple weeks ago. He had 80 yards and 11 targets against the Giants. They man coverage at about a 36% rate, so that's a high, perfect rate for A.J. Brown, who has nearly a 3.5 yards per route run against that coverage. And that game where he had 80 yards, he was basically AWOL in the first half. I had his receiving yards over, and I sat at halftime, like upset at the Christmas dinner, like table, like, man, like he's not getting any yards. And then all of a sudden he goes off in the second half. And this is, I think, one of those great performances with Devonta Smith now out that we can see A.J. Brown take off. We don't need Julio Jones stealing 2 touchdowns like he did last week. I think this is the perfect smash spot at plus 130 for A.J. Brown to find the end zone.
Yeah, the squeaky wheel gold medalist at the Olympics, I think, has to go to AJ Brown. Like, I'm surprised again that he hasn't gotten to the end zone over the last 5 games, because it's not like the Eagles have been completely AWOL from a scoring perspective. Just I think leaning a little bit more too much on the run. AJ Brown, especially with no Devontae, this is a pretty good matchup. The fact we're getting it at plus 130, very good find by you, Charlie. All right, B-Matt, why don't you give us your best bet for Week 18?
All right. So look, volume is king when you're betting touchdowns. And when you're betting touchdowns and you're looking at a running back, it never hurts that this running back is on the Raiders and they just run the ball a lot. So I'm going to go Zamir White at plus 125 for an anytime touchdown. Nice. Look, we all see the Raiders play. We know what their identity is, what they want it to be, and they want to run the football. So White has 17 or more carries in 3 straight weeks. And if you actually look at the numbers, I mean, his elusiveness and broken tackle rating are very high. So not only, is Antonio Pierce going to go out and try to impose the team's will of running the ball, I just think it's also a great matchup to do so. So I think he's had, 2 weeks with large volume where he didn't find the end zone. I think he's going to find it this week. So I'm going to go with my first pick. I don't know that I've backed the Raiders. No, I did. Jacoby Myers. So I'm going to go Zamir White, though, this week with my first pick.
All right, Zamir White. So that is the first round of betting for us. So B-Matt is on Zamir White. Charlie is on AJ Brown. I am on Taysom Hill. Let's move to our second best bets of Week 18. And Charlie, I love this pick. I love the odds. Please tell us, who is your second best bet for Week 18?
Yeah, we mentioned contract incentives earlier in the show, and I'm going to stick in that Denver Raiders game. And, all of X is talking about one man and one man only on the Denver side of things, and that's Adam Troutman at plus 400. I believe there's still 350s out there. Love that too. He's a touchdown away from $100,000. And I'm not one to just dive into coach speak all the time, but if you look at Sean Payton and all the interviews that he's conducted this week when it comes to, contract incentives and just in general for this game that doesn't really have much meaning to it, he's hinted at wanting to draw up plays to get Adam Troutman a touchdown. And this isn't a bad matchup for him. Vegas is 20th in DVOA to the tight end position. They play a lot of zone, and that is the highest rate at which Troutman's targeted. He's more efficient against man, but he gets targeted more against zone. And he's a red zone target machine. He has 9 targets this year inside the 10, which when I saw that, I was like, wow, Adam Troutman has nearly double-digit targets inside the 10-yard line. So that's 4th among tight ends. So in a game where it doesn't really mean much, and Sean Payton wants to keep the locker room happy, especially with all this Russell Wilson stuff that went on, I expect Adam Troutman to get at least 1 to 2 shots at hitting his contract incentive. So I'm willing to take a swing here at 4-1.
Yeah, when I saw Troutman was trending on Friday, I was like, what is going on here? And so again, but a good find by you, because initially in this offense, it was supposed to be the Greg Dulcich show from a tight end perspective, and Troutman was more to be the blocker. And as the season has gone on, you're right, he has now emerged as actually a receiving threat in the red zone, and he's getting the volume. So to be able to get a starting tight end at 4-1, kudos, man. Awesome find by you. All right, B-Matt, what is your second best bet for Week 18?
All right, so this is one of those where Week 18 comes along and you're looking for guys that are going to get extra opportunity. And there are a couple of things that played in here. So I'm going to go second pick, Pierre Strong at plus 280 for an anytime touchdown. So Pierre Strong is a guy he's had to sit patiently behind Nick Chubb, who was then hurt. And then, he's been kind of sitting behind Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt. So the Browns are going to be resting a large number of starters, and in comes Pierre Strong. Not only that, they did an interview with this guy this week, and he referred to himself in third person. And look, if you do that, I'm pretty sure it's science that you can't go out and have a bad game at. Yeah. Like, you can't talk about yourself and say, like, I'm going to show the coaches what Pierre is about, and then lay a dud. So it's the Browns. They're going to run the ball. They'll still have some guys playing, and they're going to go out there and run the ball. So I'm backing Pierre Strong. Give me the Boobie Miles third-person reference for my second pick at plus 280.
I was shocked, B-Matt, when we were looking over the odds this morning, and that he was still around there, even as we're recording right now. His odds are still at plus 280-ish right now. And he is going to be getting the starting running back reps. And in a Browns offense, like they're not going to sit every offensive lineman they have. Like they're still going to be able to probably run the ball fairly effectively. And they were already a team prior to Joe Flacco coming in that ran the ball the most attempts per game in the NFL. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to stick to that identity. And the fact that we're getting Pierre Strong at plus 280, again, week 18 madness. That's pretty much, I think, the reason why. So kudos to you again, finding that spot. So I'm not trying to find a guy who's getting opportunity. I'm going to be looking at a guy who I think just has a solid matchup. And it's going to be Cole Kmet. That's who I grabbed for a touchdown at plus 340. Now he's around plus 320. I would still play it over plus 300. Don't play it below plus 300. So for Cole Kmet, he's got 6 touchdowns this year. Now he only played a handful of snaps last week because he was dealing with that knee injury. But the good news is this week he did practice, and he full practice on Friday. So I expect him to be back to that 80% of snaps over Robert Tonyan. Now, he leads the team, 15 red zone targets, but this Packers secondary, they are getting Jair Alexander back, but they're still dealing with a lot of injuries. And they've been pretty underwhelming this year anyway. They haven't really been able to stop a tight end all season. 7 touchdowns to tight ends this year. That's bottom 3 in the NFL, ranked 26th in DVOA versus tight ends this year. And right now for Kmet, I'm seeing odds as low as around like plus 210 for him to score. Now, part of the reason we're seeing upwards of why we're seeing plus 320 for Cole Kmet, part of it is the injury concern, but part of it as well is that he only has 1 touchdown since Justin Fields has come back from injury. But I will say it was worth noting that it was versus the Browns, who have a top 3 secondary, they're top 5 in DVOA versus the tight end. So he can score against stronger matchups. So for me, I think Cole Kmet is where we want to be. There's no Darnell Mooney this week. I imagine DJ Moore is going to be shadowed by Jair Alexander quite a bit and move around with him. So Cole Kmet at plus 320 is my second best bet of week 18. All right, now we're going to pivot over to Sunday Night Football between the Bills and Dolphins. It's got an over-under of 49.5. And we have our old friend, Dr. Nick Giffen, joining us now, who is going to go over what he finds for value for the anytime touchdown market for Bills Dolphins. Take it away, Nick.
Thanks, Gilles, and happy week 18, everyone. I'm Nick Giffen, predictive analyst here at Action Network, and I'm here to talk anytime touchdown projections for Sunday Night Football's final regular season game between the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. We are showing projection value on just one player in this one, but that player is Gabe Davis at anything longer than plus 270. So yes, we do have this game as a luck under, which means we are expecting this game to go under its total, but these odds are just too long, even factoring that in. Gabe Davis, in 70 career games, including the playoffs, has 33 touchdowns, which translates to 0.47 per game. And since he's had a few multiple TD games, that means he still scored in 28 of 70 games, or 40% of his games. That would translate to a long-term fair odds of plus 150 if that were to remain true. And just using that 0.47 per game number and accounting for the distribution around that, we'd get fair odds around plus 167. So certainly plus 270 or longer, a long way off from that. However, we do need to, of course, adjust for the situation. In addition to the luck under, we also have to temper expectations, knowing the Bills have been a bit more run heavy recently. Also, Gabe Davis will have to contend with Jalen Ramsey, but of course he won't be seeing Jalen Ramsey on every single snap, as Gabe Davis should line up away from Jalen Ramsey still around 55 to 60% of his snaps. Additionally, another positive here for Gabe Davis is Miami's just coming off their worst pass defensive performance of the year, getting absolutely shredded by Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And now the Dolphins defense is even more banged up. They just lost linebacker Bradley Chubb for the year. Cornerback Xavier Howard is out. Linebacker Jerome Baker is questionable with a knee injury. So in addition to that poor recent performance, they're very banged up defensively, which could create a few extra holes in that defense. So while there are some negatives in this situation for Gabe Davis, I do think there's enough discrepancy in terms of his long-term performance, especially with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs both playing in all of those games that Gabe Davis has. That's a representative sample there. That In addition to that, along with Miami's poor recent performance and their injuries, I think it's totally fine to take Gabe Davis at anything longer than plus 270, which is where we have him projected. So those are our anytime touchdown projections for Sunday Night Football. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Nick. Awesome breakdown. I'm biased because I like Gabe Davis as well. So, of course, whenever we align, I'm going to be like, that was awesome. But at the same time, I will just acknowledge that he does like the under in this game, which, again, can be a little tricky from a touchdown scorer perspective. Could make for a good parlay as well if there's one guy you really like. But I like Gabe Davis as well. I'll go into a little bit more in a second. A lot of it kind of aligns with what Nick is doing here. But Charlie, is there anyone let's just start with the Bills. Is there anyone on the Bills side that you're kind of intrigued by from a touchdown scorer perspective for this game?
Yeah, I mean, I listen, I think the odds have moved very heavily on Josh Allen since his open, which BMAT logged right away at plus money. So when you look at it right now at his best number being minus 120, I'm like, well, now I don't really want to take a swing unless it's in like a big parlay. But a guy that I do have some interest in is James Cook at plus 145. He did score against Miami in that game, early on in week 4. And the last couple of weeks, we've seen the Bills offense have its moments at times where it struggled. And James Cook hasn't really been a focal point. But then when we see them kind of all systems go, James Cook plays a huge role in it, finds a lot of success. And I stick to my belief from early on in the season that James Cook's one of the better running backs in the NFL. So at plus 145, in a do or die game, in a game where I think having Josh Allen also as a battering ram helps draw so much attention toward him, Cook can take advantage, especially with Ramsey probably also covering Diggs very heavily, which opens up the door for you with Gabe Davis as well.
For sure. Yeah. And I think we all knew that Josh Allen could do this. I think it was more just the idea that he was just going to put the entire team on his back when he gets inside the 5-yard line and become like a different version of Jalen Hurts. Yeah, like exactly like the way Cam Newton used to be, like, right? So, but I think the one thing that's really good about the James Cook idea here is because of how, since the Bills have kind of went on this trajectory of getting back to the playoffs, they've really shifted more to a running front. And especially with the Dolphins, who, yes, they aren't going to have Bradley Chubb, but they do get a lot of pressure. And if they're going to get a lot of pressure, that's probably going to lead to some dump offs to Cook, we've seen him in the passing game be able to be very effective as well. So yeah, James Cook around plus 145, I think would be a solid look. Now, BMAT, we just talked about how you're on Josh Allen, but the odds have kind of shifted now where it might not be as favorable to play. So if you were going to play Josh Allen, would you still play him at minus 120, or is there maybe somebody else on Buffalo that you're looking at?
Yeah, so I tend to agree with Charlie in the philosophy that if it's not plus money and you're getting something at minus money, it's probably best as a parlay piece, or if you really love the money line. But if I'm looking at it, I mean, I kind of look at it, I say, like, all right, I like Gabe Davis, he's hit or miss. I do like James Cook. I think from the other side, a guy, with Jalen Waddle out that I had on a play last week, said Wilson.
Yes.
And he didn't score 2 weeks ago. If you go back and look, he had three targets in the end zone. So, I mean, it's not, he was the first touchdown scorer last week. So, he didn't show up on the, game log as far as, all right, he didn't have 70 yards, but when the opportunities mattered, Tua is very comfortable going to Ced Wilson. So I do also like that on the other side of things.
I am so glad that you acknowledged Cedric Wilson, former Cowboy Grace. Not really, but actually just since he went to Miami, you knew where the angle was coming from, the hidden agenda here. But yeah, no, he did catch the first touchdown last week against the Ravens and really has seen his role grow, especially in the second half with Jalen Waddle dealing with all these injuries. And I mean, he ended up playing the most snaps of any wide receiver last week. I mean, obviously it was a little bit of a blowout, but again, the Bills play a lot of man coverage too. Wilson has scored 2 of his 3 touchdowns this year on man coverage. And I mean, when you got Raheem Mostert and Tyreek Hill, I mean, Mostert's not even going to play. So you have Achane now at like minus 150, in that range. I'd rather just take a swing on Wilson to score again. Now, before we move on, Charlie, is there anyone on the Dolphins side that you like, or are you just like, blah, I don't even want to?
Yeah, no, blah, like Tyreek Hill, but now he's not plus money as well. He's in the minus and pretty heavily with Waddle out and Mostert out. So I might just parlay Josh Allen and Tyreek Hill and just call it a day with them too, because I just think volume's king at the end of the day, and those two are insured gonna get that much work. And Achane, as you said, he's like minus 150 now, which is kind of absurd to think about.
For sure. Yeah. So, all right. So that's Sunday Night Football. I'll have a video coming out a little bit later breaking down Gabe Davis and Steady Wilson, but why I like them to score. Look for that on Twitter and our Action Network YouTube page. But now we're going to move to my favorite segment of the show, the spicy touchdown bets, the one where we try to take a little bit of chances here. We're going to be playing with some big odds. And BMAT, again, week 18, some of these unknowns could maybe emerge and be able to pay dividends for us if we're able to find those kind of opportunities. So I think you have one of those for your spicy picks. Tell us, what do you like for your spicy touchdown bets for week 18?
Yeah, so I'm going to split, I'm going to go a quarter unit on 2 picks. So the first one is going to be a Davis Allen anytime touchdown at plus 750. So there are 2 things here. Number one, I apologize to anybody who's tailing me and ends up watching this game because it could be bad. But number 2, this guy, I've been waiting to bet on this guy. Like if anybody saw Davis Allen when he actually got in and got some work, this guy's out there hurdling defenders, making guys miss. I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for the day when this guy is going to get like a full allotment of snaps, And look, I know Carson Wentz is a quarterback. Doesn't make me feel easy about backing him. But look, he's going to need him. And I think Puka Nacua, everyone knows, is about 29 yards shy of a record. So I think he gets his records and then he's out of there. I think Davis Allen will play a big part today. I don't think the Niners are going to be playing everybody. They don't have a reason to. So I think Davis Allen at plus 750 is it's odds that I couldn't pass up. So I'm going to go a quarter unit there with my first pick.
All right. So what else do we got?
So then after that, I got to go back to a guy that I loved earlier in the year. You guys know this. Kenneth Walker III is playing the Arizona Cardinals. And I repeat, the Arizona Cardinals. So I'm going to go Kenneth Walker, 2 touchdowns at plus 650. I just think, look, Kenneth Walker is a touchdown machine. He's been a little bit banged up lately, and that really hasn't affected his numbers. I mean, he's still top 20 in, yards after contact. He's just an animal, and the way that he runs sets up perfectly. Arizona is very bad against the run, and I think Kenneth Walker III is scoring twice today. So I'm going to go a quarter unit there and make those my 2 picks.
All right. Davis Allen. I love this find. And again, he looked fantastic when he played against the Ravens and when he got his opportunities. In fact, when he scored, I was like, oh, Higbee scored. And then I was like, no, Davis Allen, wait a minute. So when it happened, and then Kenneth Walker, we don't have to go too deep into that. Kenneth Walker is the man. Arizona Cardinals run defense is horrible. 2 touchdowns at plus 650. Great spot. All right. So I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do a 2 touchdown bet and then just a single, someone for the culture, someone who's near and dear to my heart. First one we're going to do is we're going to take Taysom Hill for 2 touchdowns. Since I'm already on him for 1 touchdown, if I think that it's going to be the Taysom Hill kitchen sink game, let's just keep it going. So that's around 22-1. So I put a quarter unit on that. Now, Taysom, he's got a 2 touchdown game this year. Again, we already kind of went through why I like him for the 1 touchdown. 4 of his 5 touchdowns have been scored indoors. Kamara hasn't practiced. Kendra Miller is dealing with an illness. So if Taysom got 1 and I didn't bet his 2 touchdown prop, I'd be sick because of the ceiling and the potential for Taysom Hill. The other one, though, we've had some success with him on the show. We're going back to it one more time. Tommy effing Tremble to score a touchdown against the Buccaneers this week. So I have hit him twice on the show. One at 22-1, 16-1. We're way past that now, where he's now actually tight end 1 in Carolina. But what the plan was is that I was planning to bet him in week 13 on the show versus the Bucs, but he ended up sitting out that week because he has owned the matchup against the Buccaneers. He scored in both games last year against the Bucs, and the Bucs have actually been low-key awful versus tight ends this season. They're last in targets, yards to tight ends, and they're bottom 3 in touchdowns allowed with 7. So I kind of alluded to this at the top. I feel like this is like an action movie where I'm kind of like, I'm going to get my team together just for one last job, one last heist, So Taysom Hill for 2 touchdowns and Tommy Tremble are going to help me rob this vault from the sportsbook, as they say. So those are my spicy bets. Charlie, take us home. What do you got for spicy for week 18?
Yeah, following for the culture right now, 2 touchdowns and a random tight end for an anytime touchdown. I'm going DeAndre Hopkins for 2+ touchdowns at 22-1, and then Tyler Conklin to score a touchdown at plus 650. I'll start with DeAndre Hopkins real quick. So Hopkins has incentives, right? And so that's something that's not really a secret right now. He needs 7 receptions for 250,000. He needs 50 yards or 49 for 250,000 more. And then he needs 2 touchdowns for 250,000 on top of that. And this is a game where, yes, the Jags have something to play for, but the Tennessee Titans don't. So DeAndre Hopkins getting in the ear of Ryan Tannehill and being like, hey, yo, throw me the football a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's going to happen. And I don't think it's something that you should say, oh, well, that's not going to happen in the NFL. Rob Gronkowski did it, as Koerner has pointed out before. And this is a good matchup against the Jaguars where they play a lot of zone. And DeAndre Hopkins has over 2.5 yards per route run against zone. He scored a touchdown on them earlier this year. So in a game where he hasn't scored in the last 3, but is a viable red zone threat and has multiple 2+ touchdown games already under his belt in his career. And we know the ceiling that DeAndre Hopkins poses. I expect them to at least feed him a lot. And so I love taking the stab at 22-1. I looked at this number and I was like, yeah, I'm going to hop on this one. And then in the ugliest game of the weekend, probably maybe Browns Bengals BMAT, but Jets Patriots also up there. Tyler Conklin has yet to score a touchdown this season. And he has had one of the greatest tight end seasons for the Jets, at least in recent memory. And the volume's there. So what's a better way to send off Tyler Conklin and me on my regular season show than backing a Jet for an anytime touchdown? The tight end room is decimated. There's no CJ Uzoma. There's no Jeremy Ruckert. So Kenny Yeboah is the backup tight end. That means Tyler Conklin is going to be playing the majority of snaps in a meaningless game. And he's gotten, 5+ targets in each of the last 6 games. So the volume is king, and he's there being a safety valve. So hopefully it doesn't break my heart and drop a touchdown like he did against the Chiefs and finds the end zone here. Plus 650 for a guy who'll be on the field every snap. I'm going to take it.
I love the Nuke pick, especially because I'm pretty sure I had Nuke last week on the boost. Part of the reason is the incentives, but it was only at 16-1. So the fact that you're getting a 22-1 when we know that's the metric that he has to hit to get there, you would have thought that being the final week of the year that maybe it would have went down to like 14-1 or 13-1, especially with all how, I mean, you talked about it, how it is everywhere now about incentives and what people can make if they get to a certain level. So again, the fact that we're getting a 22-1, I think is a perfect way to send off week 18. And of course, Conklin, I mean, come on, get in the end zone. Let's do it now already.
Save me. I need a Jets touchdown.
Something, man. Some sort of positive sign just for the end of the year so we can go back into next year seeing how Aaron Rodgers can perform when he does more than 2 snaps. All right, now let's move to the Bet365 anytime touchdown boosted parlay. These are 2 guys where the odds were maybe a little bit lower than what we would bet for a single, but when we put them together and get a little bit of a boost, that puts it right over the value point where we're going to be comfortable with that. So the 2 guys that we're doing for the Bet365 anytime touchdown boosted parlay is going to be Jalen Hurts, and we're going to pair him with BMAT's guy, Kenneth Walker, just to get the 1. So that was plus 230 prior to the boost. Bet365 did us a solid, boosted up to plus 280. Hurts, I mean, come on, like 15 rushing touchdowns this year. Ran for 1 when they played the Giants in week 16. He's got the 3rd most carries inside the 5-yard line. I got a feeling that he's going to score a touchdown, both him and AJ Brown today, and just decimate the Giants. But Kenneth Walker, I think the one thing why we're getting better odds now, why I was a little bit concerned about where Kenneth Walker was going this year, was that Zach Charbonnet and the emergence of him, and whether or not they were going to be more doing a timeshare and splitting carries. No, Walker has pretty much taken the backfield completely back from him. He's out carrying him 4-1 over the last month. And again, BMAT talked about it, facing a Cardinals defense that is just horrendous. The 3rd most rushing touchdowns allowed in the NFL. Charlie, looking at these 2 players here, is it a match made in heaven?
Yeah, well, I'm already readying myself for like the Arthur meme where I just have my fist as I see AJ Brown go down on the 2-yard line and Jalen Hurts punches it in. So
this is like the hedge for Brown, though.
Yeah, it basically is, because I think that the only 2 guys that are going to have high upside as far as the end zone and where I would look would be these 2. So and then Kenneth Walker, B-Matt already talked about him. You just talked about him. It's the Arizona Cardinals, for Christ's sake. So I like this parlay. I'm going to be betting it, and hopefully we have better luck than last week where Tyreek Hill had the ball in his hands and then like galloped in the end zone and lost it and threw the boost out the window.
Man, Like I was feeling so good. And then I forgot all about that. And I remember Jonathan Taylor got in for us and then bobbled that ball in the end zone against the Ravens.
Yeah,
Oh my God. B-Matt, do you have anything to add about this boost before we get going?
Auto bet. I'm in.
One word it's a one word thing. It's not even 2 words now. All right, here we go. All right, so that is the Bet365 Anytime Touchdown Boosted Parlay with Jalen Hurts and Kenneth Walker, boosted from plus 230 to plus 280. And the Touchdown Show is presented by Bet365. Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than with anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays. And they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only or 18 plus in Kentucky and present in Colorado, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Kentucky, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms and conditions and restrictions apply. All right, before we get going, guys, we've got a very exciting wildcard weekend coming up here next week, less than a week away. You can sweat your bets with us, with the whole crew, with the Action Network crew at our watch party on Saturday, January 13th. I'm going to be there, Charlie, our guys, Chris Raybon, Sean Koerner, Stuckey, they're all going to be there. And then on Sunday, we're going to have another live edition of the Favorites podcast, all taking place at the Shepherd and the Knucklehead in Hoboken, New Jersey. If you want to find out more details, all you got to do is click the links below in the YouTube description of the video or go to eventbrite.com and search the Favorites to RSVP. All right, gentlemen, that's all for today. 4 picks from each of us. We're going to see you next week for Wildcard Weekend with the Action Network Power Hour. We're going to have shows covering each game, both on Saturday and Sunday. Now, if you misconvinced me, you can rewatch the show or download the Action Network app. You can get all of our picks in one place, and you can check out all of our Week 18 Anytime Touchdown bets in the Action Network app. I want to thank you for watching the Touchdown Show presented by Bet365. Bone shots.